Alright, all you glorious gamers out there, welcome to the Players 2 podcast, the video game podcast for gamers like you, by gamers like you. You can find Players 2 on all the social media, that's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, the lot. You can also find our written content over at players2.com, that's playerstoo.com. And if you could take 5 seconds to give us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, that really, really, really helps us out. It does a huge amount for the exposure of the show. And while you're over there, if you could leave us a little review as well, again, that just helps us out even more. And thank you so much to anyone that's already done that for us. You're an absolute legend to us. Alright, and on with the show. My name is Mark Henderson. With me, as always, Mr. Lewis Camley. How's it going, Lewis?
Going very well, Mark. Good to see you as ever. How's things?
Not bad. Quite stressful, but fine, Lewis, but fine. A few personal life things that are stressing me out right now. Nothing to worry about, dear ladies and gentlemen, but I'm just a bit stressed. But Lewis, I'm so ready to talk about some fucking video games.
Nice one. That always makes it better, I find.
It does. It certainly does. Lewis, what have you been playing this week?
Well, you know exactly what I've been playing this week, Mark. I am just continuing my solemn march through Bloodborne.
Yes!
It'll be a long journey ahead still. I've not played tons this week, to be honest. I've been kind of picking in and out of it, but I had a few other bits and pieces going on this week that I had to focus on. So I am at the next boss. I'm at the Blood-Starved Beast, which isn't giving me as much trouble as I thought it might. Yeah, I've been taking it reasonably slowly in the area before that and kind of leveling up a wee bit and getting used to the game, trying some different weapons, trying some different, ideas out. So I'm still really enjoying it. I don't have too much to add to what I was saying last week, Mark, to be honest. It is a fantastic game. I'm really enjoying the level design already. So the section that I've just got through, which was Old Yarnum, which kind of leads you up to the Blood-Starved Beast, just a very intricate, I think if you were just looking at it with no context, it would be so intricate and so overlapping and so many little corridors and stairwells and stuff that you would think, how am I ever going to find my way through this? Where am I supposed to go? What on earth is happening? But when you're in it and you're just moving around and you're checking different doorways and you look through a bit and you go, oh, I've seen that guy before, so I must have been in that room but from a different angle or whatever. As you start to piece all that together, I think you really start to understand the magic that this game has, that it's expansive but it's also really contained, and it's claustrophobic but it's also, in gameplay terms, really broad, and there's so many options and so many different ideas going on at once. So I am really enjoying it. The one thing about it that's still there for me is that as much as I'm thinking about it a lot, I'm not always absolutely dying to play it, and it is only because it is quite stressful to play, and you know that you're going to get into some really tricky fights and you're probably going to lose some progress after a bit of time playing it and stuff like that. So it's still that thing where if I'm finally wrapping up my day's business at sort of 11 o'clock at night, I'm not like, okay, yes, it's Bloodborne time, but I'm living for those couple of hours that I get every so often during the week, and then those longer weekend sessions that didn't quite pan out the way I thought they were this week, but I'm setting aside some time this weekend and all through next week to try and get a bit of progress done as well.
Nice one, man. That is awesome. I'm so very glad that you're still enjoying it. Like I said, after you get past that initial opening section, basically after Father Gascoigne, the last boss that you fought, the game really opens up and you really start to see, as you said, the amazingly intricate world. The intricate level design is just next tier fantastic, frankly. It's some of the best level design I've seen in any video game ever in Bloodborne, so I'm very glad that you've picked up on that immediately, and Old Yarnum, I think, is a fantastic example of it as well. So yeah, really glad that you're still enjoying it, and man, you've got so many hours still to play.
I know. I do feel like I should be making slightly quicker progress, and I assure everyone it's not that I'm dying a lot, that I'm not making progress. It's literally just the actual time to sit and play it that has got away from me slightly. So, and I would say on that, in case anyone is listening to this and thinking oh, I've been meaning to play Bloodborne, or I've always thought about playing one of these Soulsborne games, I have always kind of been of that mindset, and I always thought I just don't really have the time, and I don't always want to play something that's that difficult, and I'm not finding it quite so crazy difficult, really. And
the difficulty is so overstated, I think.
Totally.
I think that it's so overstated.
You just hit a rhythm with it, and obviously, in the last section that I've played, I died a few times, but because of the shortcuts that you open, and because of the way that...
Because of the fantastic level design.
Exactly.
Because of that part of it.
You just know that you can get back to where you were quite quickly, and you can usually regain any blood echoes, which is essentially your currency and your XP. You can usually get all that back really quickly. Even if you don't manage to get it by reclaiming it and finding it from where you died, just replaying the level and killing stuff, which is good fun. You earn it all back anyway, and once you've got that into your head, a lot of the fear drops away. Certainly it did for me, at least.
Absolutely, man. I totally echo that as well. I think that you do get into a rhythm, you start to understand the game better, what you're supposed to do, when to be aggressive, when to be defensive. Just understanding those fundamentals of the game can be a difficult obstacle to get over in the beginning, but when you do get over that obstacle, the game really rewards you for that. It really, really does, and I'm so glad that you've got to that stage, you know what I mean, and you are feeling not like this is a total slog anymore, you know what I mean, you are going in and you're having a session and you're really enjoying it now, and that is music to my ears, Lewis.
Yeah. And what have you been playing this week, Mark?
Well, Lewis, I've just been continuing my playthrough of the Nier Replicant remake. I don't have too much to add on this either, to be honest with you, Lewis, apart from the fact that it's just a good, honest RPG. Do you know that? It's just a good, honest RPG. It does sometimes feel its age, I will be totally frank about that. But at the same time, because of its age, the simplicity of it is just nice sometimes, you know what I mean? The game isn't overly bogged down in complicated systems, like you have your weapon, you have your magic, each of them have a couple of buffs, and that's sort of it. You're not dealing with 5 currencies, you're not in a menu system for, I don't know, half your playthrough, you know what I mean? You're not trying to deal with inventory, you're not trying to navigate a map half the size of North America, you know? It's just an RPG from a simpler time, and to be honest, as I said, I've been quite stressed out recently. There's been quite a lot happening in my personal life, and to be honest with you, I've been so grateful for that in this moment, I have to say. Still really enjoying it. The combat's absolutely excellent. Still very, very much enjoying that. Very much in the vein of Platinum Games / Devil May Cry. Very, very good fun in that capacity. Probably a bit less complicated than those games, if I'm being completely honest. A sort of easy version of that. But honestly, it's just quite fun to just bash square and take down a few enemies. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know. I have to say, some of the side quests do leave quite a bit to be desired. I will say, like, one of the ones that I went on yesterday was quite literally go to the other side of the map and now come back. And I'm just like, really? There's nothing better that you could have done with that side quest than that, you know? It never even had a particularly strong story point either. But as I said, I think that the game is totally nailed down by its combat. Its combat is just so fun. It is good, honest fun, Liz. That's what I would say about it. And the soundtrack, like Nier Automata as well, the soundtrack is absolutely sensational as well. Absolutely sensational.
Nice one, man. It sounds like the kind of perfect game for where you're at the moment. Just sort of slightly, I don't want to say mindless because I don't think it is that, but just, you know, something that you can relax in front of a bit more than something that you're really having to put a lot of effort and energy into. No,
definitely. I totally agree with that. Even in terms of its story, like, it's a relatively, I mean, it's not uninteresting in any capacity, but it's a pretty straightforward story. Like, you don't have to think about it overly too much. It sort of is what it is on the surface, and that's totally fine for the game that it is. Don't get me wrong, I'm sensing that there's probably layers to the story that I've not quite come across yet, to be honest with you, and it is Yoko Taro, let's be honest, he is a madman. But right now I'm just enjoying it for it just being a pure and simple RPG that I don't have to think too much about. I can dip in and out of, and it is just, as you said, just suiting my life right now, Lewis, I have to say.
Nice one. Do you know how much you've still got?
Well, I'm over 10 hours now. I'm probably about 12 hours, actually. It has an in-game clock, which is quite nice, so I do know precisely how long I've played, And I think that it is round about maybe 35 hours, so I'm maybe approaching halfway now, I would say.
So still a fair bit then.
Yeah, definitely still a fair bit. I mean, I have probably been playing this game for too long. Like, I never got to play this game as much as I would. I'm sort of hoping to beat it in maybe the next couple of weeks max, I would say. But yeah, really, really enjoying it. Again, I think it is just perfect for where I am right now, to be honest. And on that note, Lewis, I think it's time for the news. Alright, Lewis, news item number 1. A recently published patent for ultra high speed, low latency network storage seems to suggest that PlayStation may be about to bring PlayStation 5 games to PlayStation Now. The patent is specifically about using multiple NVMe drives, similar to the SSD which is in the PlayStation 5, together for the purposes of streaming games. Apparently, a big reason that PS5 games were unable to be added to PlayStation Now was because the back-end hardware couldn't really deal with the necessary SSD speeds required. And that's not me saying, oh, look at how fast the PlayStation SSD is. That is me saying that the PS Now back-end is lagging behind, effectively, you know. While the PlayStation SSD is incredibly fast, it's the back-end stuff here that's lagging behind, really, I feel anyway. However, we did also learn relatively recently that xCloud had moved its back-end streaming hardware from Xbox One specs to Series X specs. So perhaps PlayStation aren't too far behind here, but it does always feel as though they are playing catch-up when it comes to streaming and services like this, you know. Xbox obviously already provide xCloud as part of Games Pass Ultimate, so it would be good to see PlayStation offering something similar, but ultimately I think that PlayStation Now really needs an overhaul, really needs a rebranding, to be honest. So I hope that if something does come of this, where they are going to start putting PS5 games on the service, that will bring with it a sort of wider change of the service, you know. However, PlayStation are historically slow at moving on from bad ideas, so I'm not holding out much hope, but I do hope that they do manage to sort this out. While PlayStation Now has 3.2 million subscribers, which is actually up 1 million since October 2019, it truly pales in comparison to Games Pass, which is now past 18 million subscribers. And although all of them won't have Games Pass Ultimate, I'm willing to bet that the number of those that do is far north of 3.2 million. Jim Ryan had said on the run-up to the PlayStation 5's release that something was in the works around PS Now or game streaming in general, but we are now approaching a year of PlayStation 5 and we have heard nothing as yet. So, Lewis, what are your thoughts on this? PlayStation Now, game streaming, getting the PS5 games on there, what are your thoughts?
It could be a really big and quite an exciting thing for PlayStation, this, if it turns out to be true. Getting these new gen games, getting these PS5 games onto PS Now, it immediately adds a lot more interest to that service, which, like, I think most of us have pretty much discounted PlayStation Now up to this point. It's, you know, it's got some games, and it sounds, by all accounts, from the people that use it, that the streaming aspects of it aren't so bad, and I think there are some games now that you can download natively as well, but it's still not everything, in the way that Xbox Game Pass is just a simpler thing. It's just a simpler offer across the board. You sort of know what you're getting. It crosses console and PC. They are talking about it so frequently that you're always aware of what's coming to Game Pass. You always know what the next big game that's about to be added to it is. And PlayStation Now feels like it needs a bit of that energy around it. Certainly, big major PS5 exclusives in particular would do that. Whether or not...
At launch.
I mean, at launch
is also very important.
Insane. I still don't think Sony are going to do that, though, because I still think that their business model is predicated on selling loads of copies of these games to people. So... we'll see on that front, but I mean, that would be the kind of thing if they said PS5 games are coming to, or like Sony first party games are coming to PS Now day and day on release, and the subscription cost wasn't completely wild, and you could locally download, I think that suddenly you would be thinking that might very well be worth it, because at the moment, probably most people who own a PS5 are buying 1 or 2, maybe 3 of the PS exclusives each year or whatever, but they're not going to necessarily buy every single one, but a subscription that let you do that would absolutely be a game changer there, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, they just need to have some response to Games Pass now. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of dragged on quite a long time now that Games Pass is still continuing to be the best deal in gaming as far as I'm concerned, and PlayStation's response to that has been no response, basically, and all they've done is cut the price of PlayStation Now to something reasonable, frankly. Other than that, they've not really done very much at all in the streaming space. It would be very good to see them in that space, because I think that moving forward over this generation, we are going to continue to see that grow and continue to see that be an important part of this generation, and as of right now, their offering just isn't even close to Xbox, frankly. It's not even in the ballpark, really, is it?
No, it definitely does pale in comparison, but I guess also similarly to Xbox, the one other exciting possibility from this is that it could mean that PS5 games maybe not even just Sony exclusives, but would be potentially playable on PC and PS4, where PS Now is currently available as well, which could mean that a lot of people who are sitting... I mean, think about those people, Mark, who are sitting just now with PS4s who desperately want to upgrade to PS5, but who simply cannot get one because there's this enormous shortage of supply around the world. That could allow people to jump forward into some of these next-gen games a wee bit early. So things like that, again, could really make PS Now worth investing in, and then once people are in the door, it's going to be much easier to keep them there and keep making that service valuable and valid for gamers. But at the moment, still a fair bit of work to do. Hopefully this is a sign of something to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we've seen Xbox do something similar when they moved over their back-end hardware. Now you can play next-gen games on last-gen consoles, which is absolutely mad. It would be nice to see PlayStation offer something similar, but we'll wait and see. Alright, Lewis, news item number 2. It has been announced this week that Crystal Dynamics of the Avengers and Tomb Raider fame will be co-developing Perfect Dark with the Initiative. The Initiative have made this statement on Twitter.
Perfect Dark update. We're partnering with Crystal Dynamics, the world-class team behind character-driven games such as Tomb Raider, to bring this first-person spy thriller to a new generation. The teams couldn't pass up a chance to work together. We're still early in development, but incredibly excited to use this unique opportunity to deliver on the vision for Perfect Dark.
Now, this is weird and surprising for a couple of reasons, Liz. Number one, Microsoft, who obviously owns the Initiative, have sought outside help developing a game rather than using one of their many own studios, including all the Bethesda studios that they now have at their disposal. But I've instead went out and got Crystal Dynamics to help with Perfect Dark. Crystal Dynamics, for those who don't know, is a subsidiary of Square Enix. Secondly, the Initiative was set up to be a quote-unquote quadruple A studio, whatever the fuck that means, but require a co-developer for their first game? That seems a bit strange. To be clear, I don't think that this says very much about the game at all, to be honest with you, and the Initiative have stated that Perfect Dark is in early development, so I don't really think that there's anything to worry about around the game necessarily. And it certainly isn't unusual for many studios to work on a single game. For example, on the PlayStation side of things, if you were to look at the credits for The Last of Us or God of War, I bet you would be shocked at how many studios actually worked on those games that weren't Naughty Dog and Santa Monica, respectively. Having said that, to my mind, these are generally speaking, smaller, independent, external studios that are usually like highly specialist in some aspect of game design, or they are smaller internal teams from first-party studios. For example, I know that there was a small team at Guerrilla that worked on Death Stranding, for example. It would, however, be quite unusual if Naughty Dog announced that they were partnering with BioWare for the next Last of Us game, Lewis. I think that would be quite strange, and I think that would rightly grab headlines, you know? Like I said, I don't really think that this is any reflection on the Initiative as a studio or Perfect Dark as a game, to be honest. But Xbox being the acquisition happy bunch that they are, and there being rumours that we spoke about last week of a Bethesda-sized purchase, I mean, it's something to keep your eye on. Just say that.
It could be, yeah. Do you know, the thought crossed my mind as you started going through the story there, and I thought I was going to get you with a zinger, but you've thought of everything, Mark. I
will admit, Lewis, that I have borrowed that from a Forbes article.
Oh, really? I hadn't delved deeply enough into this story at all to pick up on that, but yeah, there could be something there. I mean, Square Enix, or Crystal Dynamics within Square Enix, I suppose, but buying Square Enix would be something, and it would certainly help crack that Japanese market.
Well, buying Square Enix was what I was thinking. I have to say that the Forbes article was actually more talking about them buying Crystal Dynamics, which I don't think is out of the question either. And this Forbes article actually says that it's like they're on loan to Microsoft, which is just a bit strange considering that they are one of the top Square Enix studios that are now helping Microsoft on their game. It's just a weird situation.
Yeah, to add to that weirdness, the head of the Initiative was previously the studio head of Crystal Dynamics, and one of their key people was the director of the Tomb Raider games, the most recent Tomb Raider games.
Quite right. Rise of the Tomb Raider, I believe, yeah?
Yeah, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I think just the original rebooted Tomb Raider. Yeah. There's a lot of odd things going on here. I agree. When I saw this news, I was kind of like, why on earth would particularly that quadruple A tagged studio need help with this. And when you throw in the fact that they themselves even say Crystal Dynamics are sort of experts in character-driven games, well, so are the people that you have on staff. I mean, they're working with people who've worked at Crystal Dynamics, who've worked at Naughty Dog, who've worked at Sony Santa Monica, who've, Respawn, Insomniac. Like, not to say that they're all working all the time on character-driven games, but it's hard to imagine that the initiative didn't have the talent here, and they've obviously got the money because they're backed by Microsoft. So I don't really know what to make of this story, because you look at it and you just think it is weird to get this level of collaboration from non-related studios. I mean, I think it could work in Perfect Dark's favour, like all hands to the pump, like get more talent involved, unless you end up with a too many cook situation, which I'm sure they're quite mindful of. But if you've got a good couple of teams working on something, they know what direction they're going in chiefly, and they're bringing different skill sets together, then the game might be all the better for it. And so I don't think, as you say, I don't think anyone should be looking at this news and thinking, oh God, Perfect Dark is in trouble. But I don't know, maybe it does lean more towards suggesting something about Xbox's acquisitions. Maybe it is just they are lacking some piece of talent or some piece of skill that Crystal Dynamics has, but all pretty strange, I would say. Don't quite know where to land on this one.
No, I don't know where to land on it either, and maybe there are more headlines to come here, but yeah, it is a strange one. Again, these two studios, in my head, are quite disparate. Even if the head of the initiative used to work at Crystal Dynamics, it's still quite strange to have two studios owned by two completely separate massive publishers collaborate on such a big game like this. It's just a very weird situation. It'll be very interesting to follow this story, to be honest. Alright, let's news item number 3. Amazon's MMORPG New World has hit over 500,000 concurrent players on Steam at launch, and in actual fact, at the time of recording, it is currently sitting at over 700,000. That according to SteamDB, which would make it the 5th biggest game on Steam ever in terms of concurrent players. Which is truly shocking, Lewis, I have to say, because Amazon's previous two games, Breakaway and Crucible, had barely got off the ground before they were cancelled. And New World itself had been delayed multiple times. It was originally announced at TwitchCon 2016, and the initial release date was for May 2020, so well over a year ago now. And as with any game which releases and relies heavily on many gamers being online at once, servers were of course an issue. But Amazon have basically, just as we started recording, released a statement saying that the game was now available in all regions. I actually think that it opened in Europe first and then slowly came to other regions, but it is now available in all regions, and they are increasing the server capacity, so hopefully that deals with issues, because I think that a lot of people were waiting a long time to get into the game, basically, So, Lewis, it does seem as though perhaps a tech giant has finally made a video game that is actually worth playing. At the very least, it does seem as though quite a lot of people are quite interested to check out New Worlds.
It does seem so, yeah. I mean, you can't really say anything except it's a pretty staggering launch for the game, which does, I mean, as much as it's been floating around for so long, I hadn't realised that it was launching this week. It still sort of feels like it crept up to the public launch part of it. But I guess that probably says as much about my interest in MMOs as anything else. And, Amazon products for that matter. Yeah, I mean, this is incredible. Let's wait and see, obviously, if people stick with it, because obviously there can be a lot of buzz around the game. I assume that the Twitch streamers and the influencers are all over this just now, because I would be fairly confident in saying that Amazon will have paid quite a lot of money for that to be happening.
Oh, certainly on Twitch. Also Amazon owned. Yes.
Oh,
yes,
of course it is. Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, so there's going to be a lot of buzz around this. And, genuinely, I always hope games are good, so I really hope that this lands with people, and that if people are finally getting through server troubles and getting in and getting matches played and spending some time in it, that they do really enjoy it, because, they're going to be paying money for it, they're going to want to dive into it, and a lot of people do seem to have been following this for a long time. It feels like quite an interesting game world to me from what I've seen of it, but I mean, it's not going to be the MMO that pulls me into that world particularly. I don't think it's just not the type of game that I'm necessarily really going to spend any time on. But yeah, I don't think we can draw any conclusions from this about Amazon's long-term future in gaming, because they have botched and bottled about 3 other games already, and we've seen Google come and go essentially with Stadia. I heard Stadia be mentioned the other day on some podcast I was listening to, and it honestly felt like a blast from the past. That's how quickly things have changed. So yeah, we'll see, I think, is the answer to the Amazon question here. We will see.
Yeah, definitely an intriguing start, I will say. Also interesting as well that this MMO isn't based on like a subscription or isn't free to play. It is actually a 35 quid game. Yeah. So yeah, it's a slightly different model that they've went for as well. Be interesting to know what the microtransaction situation is like within the game, I have to admit, being a paid game. But I mean, what do you say? It's a fantastic launch. It's an absolutely fantastic launch in terms of concurrent players. It will be interesting to see how many of those players they cling on to. Alright, Lewis, news item number 4, and I am absolutely delighted to inform everyone that Activision Blizzard has been sued again. Another time, Lewis. More lawsuits coming in. This time by the US Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, the EEOC, alleging that employees were subject to sexual harassment, pregnancy discrimination and or related retaliation. This was an investigation which started back in September 2018, which just shows you how long Activision Blizzard knew that they had a real problem here. This now makes the 4th time that Activision Blizzard have been sued for a combination of harassment, abuse and discrimination. Firstly, by the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. Secondly, by their own investors, which again, Lewis, was just absolutely just so good that they were sued by their own investors. I've never even heard of such a thing. Thirdly, the Campaign to Organise Digital Employees, or the Code CWA project. I don't really know if I'm pronounced that correctly. We've not actually mentioned that lawsuit on this podcast, but they are also suing Activision Blizzard. Now the EEOC, and they are still under investigation by the US Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, which is a federal agency. And, Lewis, all of that has happened in 4 months, which is just unbelievable. The difference with this lawsuit, I suppose, is that Activision Blizzard have already settled the lawsuit for $18 million, and that $18 million fund will go to compensate those affected, and any left over will go to, quotes, charities that advance women in the video games industry or promote awareness around harassment and gender equality issues, as well as company diversity, equality and inclusion initiatives as approved by the EEOC, which is a good thing. However, that $18 million, quite frankly, pales in comparison to what it should be. And Lewis, I would just like to reiterate what I think is the players' to stance on this, which is absolutely fuck anyone that is involved in this behaviour at all, that has enabled this culture at the company. Fuck the board specifically, who at best have minimised this behaviour and at worst have denied it was even a problem in the first place. Also, fuck them for taking legal measures to try and discourage their employees from unionising when their board were clearly completely uninterested in fairly taking on their comments or in any way protecting them against this behaviour. And every one of those pieces of shit in the boardroom, quite frankly, all deserve to lose their jobs, and if it were up to me, would spend a significant amount of their remaining lives in jail. Over to you, Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, I just need to echo everything you just said there, to be honest, Mark. As you said, it's kind of our stance on these things. Fuck everyone involved in abusing their staff. Fuck the people at the top of Activision Blizzard who not only have been doing this or facilitating it or not reporting it or burying it or whatever it is that they've been doing, but they've been doing it for so long, as you were pointing out there. Like, this investigation has been going on for essentially 3 years. Well, basically it's 3 years now. Absolutely. And there will have been complaints long before that as well. It's a grubby, horrendous situation there, and it's gratifying to see that a lot of the pressure is now coming to bear on Activision Blizzard and on the people at the top. There are concurrent lawsuits. There is still pressure from the staff and other people in the industry who are kind of supporting them. Other games union types have sort of stepped out in their support. I think it's pretty incumbent on people like ourselves, but the games media more broadly, and influencers in the gaming space, to keep that pressure up as well and not let this turn into a story that had its moment about a month ago and then just kind of fades away, which does happen a lot in this industry. But yeah, yeah, it is important that we keep talking about this case as it goes on. Not every gory detail, obviously, but when another lawsuit like this comes along, it's absolutely worth mentioning. It does make me feel a bit grubby that they can just settle this out of court and just pay what is a fairly inconsequential sum to them to kind of make it go away for a bit, make this particular case go away. But hopefully there is more to come here, more lawsuits, more accusations, not more bad behaviour, and some more losses at the top of the company. I think it's what we all need to see happen for us to have any faith in the future of Activision Blizzard, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more with that. And to the employees there, like, this must be so difficult to deal with just on a daily basis. You know, I really genuinely feel for them, and I really hope that this pressure that's been put on the board effectively, or upper management, or whoever you want to say at Activision Blizzard, is genuinely improving the lives of the actual people on the ground there. You know what I mean? The actual developers. I really hope that it is, because, man, it sounds as if you've had a real rough time of it. But anyway, Lewis, finishing off as we always do with a couple of shout-outs. Shout out number 1, Death Stranding Director's Cut has come out this week, and it is currently sitting with an 86 on Metacritic, which is a good little chunk above the original game, I have to say, which was on an 82 on the PS4. It does seem as though the update is pretty good by all accounts. Quality of life improvements are good, new content seems to be good enough and fun enough to merit another playthrough, which I suppose is really the main thing, and it seems to be taking advantage of the PS5 and the DualSense as well, which is great to see. While we both like Death Stranding, Lewis, I think that it's safe to say that you were a bigger fan of it than I was. Do you have any interest in going through a second time?
Definitely, yeah. I don't know if I would replay the entire game again, but I'm quite keen to see what the new content is. Have a little play around with the new features and the new, stuff like the helper bot guy. I can't wait to get a shot at him, and the cargo cannon thing that we saw in the trailer. Like, those things look great. It does seem to me like a lot of people's reactions to this director's cut and the fact that it is sitting slightly higher in reviews comes from people just finding that there's quality of life improvements there and make the game a bit more fun to play, which was kind of most people's problem with the original release. So yeah, and if I wasn't playing Bloodborne right now, I probably would have jumped in over the weekend, but I'm sort of preoccupied at the moment.
Fair enough, man, fair enough. Alright, let's shout out number 2. FIFA 22 has also come out this week, and it is currently sitting with an entirely underwhelming 79 on PS5 and Series X. It very much seems as though EA have done it again, Lewis. They have sold essentially the same game with very modest updates and very many microtransactions. And I'm sure it will sell like hotcakes, which is the sad thing about it all. I do have to shout out a fantastic review by Wesley Yin Poole over at Eurogamer. I thought it was an absolutely fantastic article, and as always, all the articles will be referenced over at the show notes at players2.com. I think that his headline says it all. Morally bankrupt monetization lets the side down once again. And in his review with regards to the loot boxes, he says no one likes loot boxes, and in 2021 they feel archaic in video games. When even Call of Duty has ditched them and you haven't, you know that you're on the wrong side of history. EA is desperately clinging on to its cash cow, and with each annual release of FIFA, it looks increasingly ridiculous for doing so. And I think that those few sentences just sum up everything that I feel about FIFA.
Yeah, absolutely. Not surprised that it hasn't reviewed well. Or, I mean, I guess it reviews the same as it always does,
every
basically.
Fucking year, because it's basically the same game with incredibly minor changes. Honestly, it looks the fucking same. It looks exactly
it totally
the
does.
same.
Yeah, it looks absolutely identical.
Apparently, the animations are a bit better on the players, which I mean is good. I mean, it's good that they are improving stuff. But I mean, graphically, honestly, it could have been copy and pasted. It's insane how similar it looks.
Yeah. We really need something to come and disrupt the sports game market, and it's only getting worse really with the disappearance of PES altogether.
Well,
but
PES are trying to do something different. They've not disappeared. They are trying to do something different. I know that from the beta there was sort of mixed response, I will say, but it wasn't as negative as it could have been, I will say. And it is basically still in demo
format.
Let's
cling to that then.
I sort of hope that their model works, man. I really do. It might not smash it out the gate, but I'm hoping that maybe a year down the line we're all looking at the PES model and going, oh yeah, that's definitely how sports games should go, you know?
Yeah.
Alright, let's shout out number 3. And Diablo 2 Resurrected has also come out this week. This is the long-awaited Diablo 2 remake, which is now on consoles as well for the first time. It's currently sitting with an 83 on PC and an 84 on PS5. It is also coming to Series X and Switch as well, but there weren't enough reviews at the time of recording for them to do like a mean score. But basically, it seems as though it's good, but not great. And it does seem that part of the reason for that is that they may have stuck too closely to the 20-year-old original, and with that have brought the jank of a 20-year-old game, effectively. However, in reality, if you want to play Diablo 2 in 2021, this remake is probably the way to go, and it's very nice to see a PC classic finally make its way onto consoles as well. That's always cool to see.
Yeah, it feels like a game that was beloved back in its day, so if it gets a new lease of life here, all for it. Hopefully it plays well and people enjoy it. I don't think it's one for either of us. I don't know, have you got any interest in Diablo particularly?
I mean, sort of. I'm more curious about it. I don't think that I would ever sit down and play through the whole game, but I would quite like a wee shot.
Yeah.
Alright, let's final shout out number 4. 343 have announced more details of the Halo Infinite multiplayer tech preview. The tech preview this coming weekend will be available to everyone on Xbox through the Xbox Insider Hub app. No invite is required, and you do not have to be an Xbox Insider to get involved. As we said last week, there will be 2 modes available. It will be 12v12 big team battles or 4v4 arena battles. While I'm sure many Halo fans will be very excited to get involved in the tech preview, this is also the first time that the game will basically be available to the masses, and I am very interested to see how they react to this, I must admit. I genuinely hope that it goes well, I really, really do, and the reports so far have been positive, which is great, but the general public are much less understanding of server issues and bugs lists, even in a tech preview. But I think that it's a good sign that 343 think that it's ready to hand to the public, because they will know that as well as anyone.
Yeah, they better be ready for what's certainly going to come if there's any issues whatsoever. But let's hope not. Let's hope it goes smoothly and people are really excited about it. This game's only, a couple of months away from release now, and it would be just exactly what Xbox and 343 need if the playing public really get on board with it. So fingers crossed for them.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And the game is coming on December the 8th, so not long to wait at all. Very interested to see how this goes. All right, Liz, I think it's time for a beer, and then we'll be back with Topic of the Week. And we are back for Topic of the Week. Topic of the Week this week is our recap of the Nintendo Direct, Liz. And let's not mess about at all. We've got a lot to get through here. Let's dive straight in. They started things off with the Monster Hunter Rise DLC called Sunbreak. That is coming in summer 22. Basically just a cinematic trailer. Not a huge amount to say about it, if I'm totally honest with you. I'm sure fans will be excited for that, though. After that was Mario Party Superstars, which revealed that there was basically boards returning from the previous Mario Party games. I'm sure if you're into your Mario Party, you're very excited about this. Not something for me, probably not something for you, Lewis, I dare say, but it is coming on October the 29th.
No, not something for me, but good to see some of the old content being reused, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of fans quite happy to see some of that stuff come back.
Absolutely, absolutely. After that, Lewis, was Voice of Cards, The Isle of Dragon's Roar. This is a new card game by Square Enix and Nier creator Yoko Taro. Obviously, I am playing Nier right now, Lewis, so this was quite incredible to see. And also that the Nier composer, Kaiichi Okabe, will be coming along as well. And again, his scores for Nier Automata and Nier Replicant have been absolutely sensational. A demo was dropped today. I think that I might dive in and give this one a go. It looked absolutely bizarre. Just everything was cards. The map was cards. All your moves were cards. The characters were cards. It was absolutely insane. But the full game is coming on October the 28th.
Sounds like everything's cards, Mark, in this new card game.
Everything's cards, mate. Everything is cards.
It has quite an impressive art style, and yeah, the music that you even get in that wee trailer is really nice. So if you're going to check out the demo, I'll wait for your feedback on it, but it might be one that I could be tempted to give a look at, where it's something that I maybe wouldn't naturally gravitate towards, but yeah, that creative team is not to be sniffed at.
Definitely not. After that, Lewis, was the confirmation that we are getting a Disco Elysium, the Final Cut Switch port, which is arriving on October the 12th, so not long at all. There will also be a physical version of the game down the road, which will be available in 2022. Lewis, definitely one of your favourite games from last year, was it? The year before? I can't quite remember now.
I think it was 2019. It came out right at the end of 2019, but who knows anymore with the way time is.
Flat circle, mate.
Yeah, I played it a wee while ago, and yeah, it's utterly fantastic. If you haven't played it yet, give it a shot on any platform that you can play it on, particularly if you like RPGs, if you like story-driven games, if you like writing in games. This is an absolute unmissable, so check it out.
Yeah, definitely been top of my to-play list for quite a while, I've got to say.
I feel like it would be quite good on Switch as well. You know, you want to read, you want to carry it around with you, it's not so bad for that.
Very nice. After that, Lewis, was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, this being the final piece of DLC for that game, which is coming out on October the 29th. Again, if you're a fan of that game, I'm sure that you're looking forward to that. After that, Lewis, an absolutely remarkable thing, Chocobo Racing. No, sorry, excuse me, Chocobo GP. The previous game, which had come out quite a long time ago, I think, was called Chocobo Racing, which I'd never heard of, but it's basically a Final Fantasy kart racer, right, featuring chocobos. I honestly think that there's something in this. I think that there's a good game in here somewhere. I'm not sure that the game that we saw was that game, though. But it is coming in 2022 at some point, so it'll be very interesting to see if Mario Kart has some competition.
Yeah, I feel like you can't go too wrong with a kart racer, and this could be quite fun, but it wasn't the best trailer ever, but for Final Fantasy fans, I'm sure it'll have tickled their fancy a wee bit.
It weirdly has, man, and it shouldn't have done. It shouldn't have done. After that, we also got the announcement that Sakurai would be announcing the final Smash Brothers DLC character on October the 5th, which is very exciting, I'm sure. In the Smash circles, speculation is rife about who that will be. Very interesting to see who the final character is going to be. Someone from Fire Emblem is my bet.
Surely not. It has to be something quite exciting.
I was joking, but it would be so funny if it was. Then after that list, we got Kirby and the Forgotten Land. This is apparently leaked earlier in the day in Japan, I believe, but this came as a total surprise to me, and when I saw the trailer initially, it was quite obvious quite quickly that it was a 3D platformer, and I was like, oh my god, is this going to be the next Mario game? And then it was Kirby, and I was a wee bit like, oh. But that is coming in spring 2022. Lewis, you are far more interested in 3D platformers than me. Was this doing anything for you?
I think it looks quite interesting. I can't say that Kirby is a character or a series that I've ever really bothered with, but I thought the 3D environments, I thought this kind of weird post-apocalyptic vibe that it was giving off was quite interesting.
Interesting choice for Kirby, I've got to
say.
Exactly,
yeah. It doesn't really fit the sort of super happy neon vibe of Kirby, so I'm interested to see a little bit more. I don't imagine I'll naturally pick it up unless it's a real home run, but I think it's quite cool to see them do something different and just to get some fresh content on Switch that isn't, old games being remastered kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah, very much so. I wonder if Sakurai's involved in this. He was originally the creator of Kirby, so far as I'm aware, so very interesting to see if he's involved. After that, Lewis, an update for Animal Crossing New Horizon is coming, and there will be an Animal Crossing Direct in October. Me and you, not so much into the Animal Crossing, but many people are, so I'm sure that they are all very excited for an excuse to go back and play that game. After that was an update on Mario Golf Super Rush, and that was shadow dropped that there would be 2 new courses and 2 new characters, the Koopa Troopa and Ninja. This is actually a game that me and you, I think, both still basically want to play, because we got ludicrously addicted to the original Mario Golf on Nintendo Switch Online for the old NES, which was great, and I really genuinely would still like to play this at some point.
Definitely, yeah. I think it still looks like a lot of fun, even though it didn't necessarily review the best. And great to see them already adding more content to it. I think it's really nice to see Nintendo support their games. Yeah,
absolutely, and that is a free update as well, which is really great.
Yeah.
After that was Disney Magical World 2 Enchanted Edition. This is apparently an updated version of a 3DS game, which I had never heard of. But hey, if you're into your Disney, maybe go and check that out. After that, Lewis, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, not the remake to be clear, the original, is coming to Switch on November the 11th, which was a bit out of left field for me, but I think actually is probably quite a good fit on Switch, maybe?
I can see that. Yeah, I think it's the kind of game that people still want to play regularly. I mean, we were both saying that we kind of missed out on it the first time round, and it would be worth checking out before the remake. So Switch seems like a really good place to check it out for sure.
After that, Lewis, was Dying Light Platinum Edition and Dying Light 2, both coming to Switch. Dying Light 2 is a cloud version of the game. I believe the original Dying Light is just the normal game. That is coming on October the 19th, and Dying Light 2 is out on February the 4th. Very interesting to see that Nintendo are continuing this cloud game trend. I know that Hitman came to the console as a cloud game. I'm sure that there have been another couple that I'm forgetting about.
Yeah, Control was as well, yeah.
Oh, Control, lovely. Yeah, absolutely. So this is Nintendo obviously getting around their hardware limitations by using cloud streaming effectively. So very intrigued to see how that will play on Switch, I have to admit.
Yeah, if you've got other consoles and you want to play Dying Light 2, I would probably do it there.
I would recommend almost every other one of them, yes. Yeah. After that, Lewis, something that I am beginning to get very, very interested in indeed is Triangle Strategy, which, if you don't know, is basically Octopath Traveler meets Fire Emblem, which is two games that I really, really like. So there we go. They seem to have actually implemented changes to the game based on the demo that was out in February, which I actually never played, but very much still want to. But really nice to see the studio taking on that feedback. You know, sometimes I feel as if they're just putting out demos and just to create a bit of hype and not actually taking on any feedback. Yeah. But exactly, just a sales tactic. But really nice to see the studio taking on those comments and really taking the fan feedback on board and making improvements to your game, which is what it's all about, right? And we got the announcement as well that that's coming on March the 4th, 2022, which is very exciting for me, and I will definitely be playing that.
Yeah, nice one. I kind of want to see more of this. I thought it got, it only had like a minute-long trailer as part of this direct, and it's obviously quite a big project for Square Enix and for Nintendo. So I downloaded the demo as well. Something about this kind of caught my eye. I did play the Octopath demo as well, but I was less interested in that by the end. But I think this could be cool. I think it's worth keeping an eye on, and hopefully before March they'll show off a wee bit more of it.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure that this will get a bit of a moment in the sun, you know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe not a whole direct dedicated to it, but I'm sure it will get a wee moment in the sun eventually.
Terrible name, right enough.
Oh, they always are. Octopath Traveler, I mean, what the fuck is that? Triangle Strategy? Nonsense, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. After that, Lewis, was Metroid Dread, and good grief, Lewis, it looks absolutely fantastic. It's coming on October the 8th, which really is not far away at all. And man, honestly, it blows me away every single time I see this game. I really think that it looks incredible.
Yeah, a fantastic showing for this again. I totally echo your excitement for it. I'm really looking forward to it. There was some hands-on previews from different outlets this week as well of the game. I think it was like the first couple of hours that a few people got to play, and all signs are sounding good so far, I've got to say. So, I mean, by the time we do another show, we might well have reviews. I'm not quite sure when they're dropping, but it's definitely little over a week away at this point, which is really exciting.
Absolutely, man. I'm really, really excited for this. I think that this could be a serious Game of the Year contender. If it plays anywhere near as good as it looks, my God. Yeah. After that, Lewis, arguably the announcement of the whole direct, and one that had been long rumoured and that we'd talked about last week, Nintendo Switch Online is getting an update almost exactly 2 years on from its launch. The update will include a new membership plan, the price of which we still don't know so far as I'm aware, for an expansion pack that includes N64 games and Sega Genesis games, Lewis, which absolutely blew me away. I think that we were all expecting Game Boy games, right? So it came out with Sega Genesis was totally left field for me. This is apparently coming in late October. Very, very exciting, Liz. Very exciting. I am definitely going to do this almost regardless of price.
Yeah, I suppose it remains to be seen what that extra price will be. To me, Nintendo Switch Online is already well priced, and so a wee bit
it's ridiculously priced. It's like £20 for the year.
For the year, nonsense. Yeah. And so a small uplift on that would be okay, but hopefully they're not taking this opportunity to really expand that pricing structure and make this quite expensive. So we'll see, but it is really exciting. Some great N64 games come into it, and yeah, what a surprise on that Sega Genesis thing. You know, old rivals Nintendo and Sega, and here they are putting their games into their online system just a few decades later.
Yeah, definitely for me, I have to say Legends of Zelda Ocarina of Time is the standout there, and they've already confirmed, I believe, that Majora's Mask is coming as well, so they are definitely both getting played, Liz. Definitely
yeah,
both getting played.
They were definitely the highlights for me as well. I mean, you've got your Dr. Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Super Mario 64, I think Mario Golf and Paper Mario are coming as well, Pokemon Snap, F-Zero X, loads of great games. Banjo-Kazooie, there's loads of stuff coming on that N64 pack, and you're obviously getting your Segas, your Golden Axes, your Streets of Rage 2 on the Sega collection, and plenty more. So check it out if you're an old timer like us who has memories of some of these games.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Golden Axe, what a fucking game back in the day, man.
Oh man, Golden Axe, so good.
Also as well, Lewis, both are getting wireless controllers as well. Both will cost $50. I don't know about European or UK prices as yet. But Lewis, the Genesis controller, Japan are getting the 6-button version and we're only getting the 3-button version in the West. What's that about? I'm furious about this. Unlike the NES and SNES controllers, which I don't really think are necessary because they are basically adjacent to a standard button layout, the N64 and Genesis controllers aren't that, and I think that they would be things that are worth getting for a lot of people, and potentially me as well. And I want 6 buttons, man.
Well, tough, you're stuck with 3.
I am. After that, Lewis, was the Castlevania Advance Collection, Lewis. This includes Castlevania Circle of the Moon, Harmony of Dissonance, Aria of Sorrow, and Dracula X. These are all basically Game Boy Advance games, or some SNES games potentially, which are being updated and brought over to Switch. This is quite appealing to me, I've got to say. I've got quite into my Metroidvanias, and obviously the Vania part of that comes from Castlevania, Lewis, and I've played none of those games basically, apart from a little bit of Symphony of the Night. So quite appealing to me, this, I've got to admit. After that list was ActRaiser Renaissance, a game that I had never, ever, ever heard of, but it's getting an HD remaster and it's coming to Switch, so that's great. If you like that game, look forward to that. After that list was Deltarune Chapter 2, Deltarune being a spin-off sort of Toby Fox's Undertale, and this being obviously the second part of that. And the nice thing about this is that if you own Chapter 1, this comes as a free update, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of excitement in the gaming community for Deltarune. It seems like people really went for the first chapter, and the second one is just adding more of the same. If you liked and played Undertale, I think you'd be daft not to be checking this out, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much looking forward to playing this. I've still not played Chapter 1 yet, but I will be.
Yeah.
After that list, we got a whole bunch of announcements around the Super Mario movie by Illuminations. Miyamoto spoke about this for quite a long time. It's not coming until holidays 2020, but the announcements list that Chris Pratt is going to voice Mario, Anya Taylor-Joy is going to voice Princess Peach, Charlie Day is going to voice Luigi, Jack Black is going to voice Bowser, Keegan-Michael Key is going to voice Toad, and Seth Rogen is going to voice Donkey Kong, which is a pretty all-star cast, you have to admit. I have no hopes for that movie whatsoever. I think it's probably going to be terrible, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's almost guaranteed to be terrible, isn't it? I guess they're trying to replicate the Detective Pikachu success or the Sonic movie success by, including major Hollywood actors here. I have to admit, I cracked up. I was laughing out loud while watching this at the Chris Pratt announcement. I thought it was among the most ludicrous things I'd ever encountered on a gaming show like this. So, yeah, the whole thing, the idea of Charlie from It's Always Sunny playing Luigi is just completely absurd to me.
He's one of the ones that fits. Him and Jack Black. I'm sort of like, yeah, that sort of works. Chris Pratt is Mario. I'm like, yeah. What? How was he the first choice?
It's just awful. Just really terrible.
Absolutely mad. Absolutely mad. Alright, Liz, after that was Splatoon 3. And I honestly think that this game, for what it is, it's a Nintendo shooter, you know what I mean? And Nintendo can't have guns, so they had paint, and what they've done with that concept is just really fantastic. This is why Nintendo are top of the field here, I think, really, to be honest. I thought that the game looked great. I'm never ever going to play it, but I think for what it is, it looks fantastic. Still no date beyond 2022, but really, really interesting thing, I think, Splatoon. I'm just fascinated by it more than anything.
Yeah, I think they've done a great job of building a kind of mythos around a new IP already. It's a couple of games in. It doesn't feel like the kind of thing that should really have like a big expansive backstory, but this story trailer that we got here feels like it's raising a lot of interesting things, and it does make you think, well, it's got a bit more to it than it just being like a multiplayer colourful shooter. Like they've thought about what kind of story they're trying to tell, and yeah, I really hope it works out. As I was saying earlier, like it's good to get just more new stuff from Nintendo, and because we've had quite a lot recently of remasters and DLCs for older games and that kind of thing, and not a lot of just stuff pushing us into the future of the Switch. And it does feel like Splatoon 3 is going to be one of their big tentpole games next year, alongside Breath of the Wild, obviously.
I'm sure. And Lewis, they finished off the show with Bayonetta 3, and Mark was absolutely fucking goddamn delighted. This is the first time that we'd seen Bayonetta 3 at all since it was announced in 2017. And when it was announced in 2017, I don't even know if you can remember that, Lewis, it was so long ago. It was literally just the logo. It was literally just the logo that we've seen, along with, I believe, the Metroid Prime 4 logo was also at the same time, and we know how that went. But we got to see a proper trailer, proper gameplay. It just looked like more Bayonetta, but bigger and madder, which I'm totally for. Apparently it's coming next year. I'll believe that when I fucking goddamn see it. But the fact that we've got to see it at all, Lewis, the fact that we've got gameplay, we've got weird kaiju battles, man, I'm all about this. I thought it was fantastic. I am very, very excited for this. And I'm, more than anything, I'm just so fucking glad we finally got to see it. And when we saw it, it looked great.
Well, I'm really glad for you, and I'm sure for other Bayonetta fans, that it is looking good, and that, we did finally get this reveal of it, this proper reveal, because I think there's been doubts about it, and I think there's been people in the community thinking that maybe there was some trouble there. I'm pretty sure I remember Nintendo sort of reassuring us at various points that it was still definitely all okay. And
so did Platinum as well. Yeah. Platinum were just saying, stop asking about it, it's fine.
Yeah, but you do need to show things for people to believe that, and so, a really strong trailer. Bayonetta doesn't do a ton for me, to be honest, but like you say, it's touching the right bases for the people who are going to be excited to play it. It was an impressive trailer, and let's hope it makes that 2022 release date for a pretty stacked year on Switch.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I, again, will believe it when I see it, but I am very, very excited for this game. I'm just so glad it exists and it's there and it's not in trouble and it'll look good, you know. And overall, Liz, I have to say, I think this is one of the better directs that we've had in quite a while, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I don't think either of us were going in expecting too much other than the N64 rumours that we'd obviously reported on recently.
I don't know if I said on the show or not, but I was expecting this to be almost only that.
Yeah,
so the fact that we got so much more on top of this, and including Bayonetta, and including a whole bunch of other stuff that I was interested in, I was all about this, man. I really enjoyed this. I was so excited watching a lot of this, you know what I mean? And some genuine surprises in there. Even on the N64 announcement, the adjacent Sega announcement,
that absolutely,
is madness.
They pulled out some surprises. Like you say, not necessarily every game for me, but that's not really the point. Like they touched quite a lot of different areas. I'm sure they'd have caught a lot of different types of gamers in this direct, and everything that they showed looked good, I thought, or good enough, other than the Chris Pratt casting. But, you know, there wasn't much that you looked at and thought, God, that looks terrible, you know. I think that, a strong showing from Nintendo altogether.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll have to call it a day there. I'd like to remind everyone that you can find Players 2 on all the social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, the lot. You can also find our written content over at players2.com. That's playerst.com. And if you could give us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, it really, 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 really helps us out. I say it twice a week, every single week, but it does not become less important on a weekly basis. And thank you so much to anyone that's already done that for us. It genuinely does mean a lot, and it genuinely helps us out. So if you've taken that time, thank you so much. It genuinely means a lot, and you're an absolute legend to us. I'd like to remind everyone that our play-along game for this month is Little Nightmares. But, Lewis, I have an announcement to make.
Uh-oh.
I've absolutely fucked it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there will not be a podcast next week. And the reason for that, as I said, is because I have absolutely fucked it. I completely forgot that I'm not going to be available to record at all, basically, next week. Which is very disappointing because that was supposed to be our play-along week. So what we've now decided to do is do both the Little Nightmares games next month. Is that right, Lewis?
That is right, yeah. So we were already intending to play Little Nightmares 2 in October, following on from Little Nightmares 1 this month. So we'll just wrap both of those games up and have maybe a slightly longer discussion about both games together on the first show of November, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have to apologise, ladies and gentlemen. This is entirely my fault. As I said, personal life has been a bit stressful recently, and I've just completely forgot to deal with this situation and basically have double booked myself.
Well, I know where I stand now, Mark.
Yeah, I do apologise. And again, I understand that it's been a bit of a turbulent release window over the last couple of months, particularly with Lewis's working and whatever. Yeah. This is no reflection on that at all. I have literally just fucked up. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we will not see you next week, but we will see you the week after, I promise you that.
Thanks.